Alright, this is going to be live on Instagram. Alright, this is going to be live on Instagram. Alright, everyone. Alright. I got the screen close to me. Yes. Paddle, paddle, ball. Alright.
In your feet area?
Huh. Yeah. Alright, so there's going to be a slide where it says thought on any retroactive PC gaming. It's just your thoughts on it, nothing else. Yeah, I know we talked about the computers from Japan. Yeah, okay. Okay, don't worry, you'll know it. Alright, everyone, before we begin, there will be some participation, and you can either get something from this bag of 3D printed goodies or some bottle caps. Yeah, they're going to be the new currency. Yeah, so stock up while you can.
Yeah, maybe some vendors here will take up. Good way to save some cash.
Yeah, so save up for those stim packs. You're going to need them. Okay, alright. Alright, about a minute. Okay. Alright. Okay. There you go. Yeah, by all means, record this. 12:29. And now, hello everyone, welcome. How are we all doing today? Welcome to the first panel. All right.
Panel today, all right.
Okay, welcome to Retro Game Today. I count about, looks like 50 people in here, I think. Yeah.
Well, fashion. When you start at the exact same time.
I know. A lot of competition.
All right. Well,
all
right, everyone. Welcome to Retro Gaming Today, a presentation panel on how older classic video games have been relevant in many interesting ways. My name is Max Scheller. I call myself that guy with the Game Boy camera. Some years ago, I went around just taking people's photos with the Game Boy camera, printing them out on this printer, and sadly, my printer is officially broken today. 6 years. Yeah, it's that port in there. All right, so I kept doing it. Got on social media in 2018, put all my photos on it. Got interviewed by the LA Times at Game Boys at 30, and I've been doing panels on retro gaming relevance, since that's what I felt like the article was about and how I can expand on it. This is like my 6th one. All right, and beside me here is my longtime friend, Brandon Stuart.
How's it going, everyone?
Yes, he's here. Knows more in depth about PCs and modding. I studied on, more on the console side. All right, let's start. What counts as retro? All right, so it's basically hardware or software from different generations. You know, we consider retro gaming to be 5th generation. Sega Saturn, PlayStation, Nintendo 64. This also includes a Dreamcast, no longer supported. Game Boy Advance, no longer supported. Older PC, I'm not much of a PC gamer, but I hear MS-DOS and games in the 90s. Brandon?
Yeah, pretty much anything pre-Windows 95, even some old 95 classics are considered retro. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff out there we'll talk about in a bit.
All right, good. All right, older arcade. And maybe I'll get an arcade guy someday. All right, they made under different means of development. How games are made now were different back then. Back then, you had to type the graphics. They just look and feel different. Side-scrollers, 16-bit, 18-bit, early 3D ventures where they all look pointy, not so smooth. No current support from the makers or developers. So, see that quote above there from Nintendo? Well, don't call them if your Nintendo Entertainment System needs fixing. Go to somewhere else. Go to Game Repair, which is here at Lvl Up. No longer sold in major retail stores, or they're sold in secondhand or specialty stores. So don't go to Walmart. Don't expect to find Dreamcast, Nintendo 64. I know GameCube's not, or Xbox or PlayStation 2's not sold, but we're not counting those as retro yet. But you can still find maybe a Wii game or two at Walmart. And it can also be part of a collector's market. And here's how far that's going. There's a market for games that are graded and sealed. As in, if you have any games you want, sealed and graded. A company called Wata Games will do it for you. You just got to pay them, and your games will have their value increased. I know, more valuable if they're in the box, similar to CGC for comic books, and there's also services like that for trading cards. Brandon?
Yeah, if anyone's familiar with Beckett or PSA, they'll grade any kind of trading card games, sports, memorabilia. This is just kind of a natural progression for some of the older classics that have been well preserved to maintain their value by being encapsulated in these graded forms. So I'm sure we'll see a lot more as time goes on, and it's going to be really crazy for me to see like a fully sealed Xbox 360 like 30 years down the road go on eBay for hundreds of dollars when, you know, we don't really think of that as being anything special at this time. But
well, the difference between the disc games is that you need the case for your disc. So I doubt there's going to be a high market for maybe if it has the plastic wrap around it, but there's going to be plenty of cases in the future, for your discs. Not so much with boxes, because most of those are thrown out. All right, and some games do have that original sticker, so there is a difference there. All right, so I'm going to ask, let's say how much does the original Super Mario Brothers in the box go for if it's graded, sealed, high grade from Wata Games? Yes, the guy who brought the camera here.
$1,200.
I'm seeing more like 100,000, for a good grade. For the original Super Mario Brothers in the box at a high grade. All right, well, if you want to take some from this bag of 3D printed items, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Can I come up? Okay, well, that's how far the market's going. So, why do we cut it off at the 5th generation and a few others? Well, Dreamcast was Sega's last console. Support ended. Yeah, I mean, Nintendo DS, still relevant. It used to play Game Boy Advance. Now the new DS systems do not. Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, they were early 3D ventures, and they were succeeded. And the GameCube, Xbox, PS2, PSP, let's just face it, many of those games just hold up. I have a selection right here. They still just hold up to other games, maybe not as smooth, but still feel like they hold up, and still just as fun today. Yeah? All right, and GameCube games can still be played on the Wii, not Wii U. So there is still some support for Wii and GameCube. And GameCube controllers, they're still being supported. They're mainly used for Super Smash Bros. Tournaments.
And whoever gets those controllers tend to do a bit better than others, so they're very coveted.
All right. And some Xbox games can be played on the Xbox One through an emulator that the Microsoft provided. Now, the first PS3 models did play PS2 games, though not so much. You got to stream those on PS4. And there might be one last Wii game in the form of Just Dance 2020. Okay, now, Brandon, we talked on relevance of older PCs. You said?
Yeah. So there's a very special market for folks looking to buy the older Japanese computers that were released in the late 80s through the early 90s that were only available in Japan. Has anyone ever heard of systems like the PC-88, PC-98, X68000 by Sharp? I mean, there's some systems out there that if you get a pristine, well-working conditioned machine, you can get many hundreds of dollars, if not in the thousands, just for some for some of the components like sound cards, any other chips that were built on board. I mean, upgrading these systems is a big modding community for it. So if you can find any of those systems, or if you have any, keep them in good shape because they're worth a good amount of money, and there's a big community out there dedicated to restoring the hardware of these highly sought-after PCs from Japan and Korea. So.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay, I'll get the next slide. Okay, staying relevant. What makes us still play these older games? On the older systems. Anyone? Anyone want to throw out some answers? Good. Come up and get a prize. Anyone else?
I was going to say how simple it is. Like anybody can play.
Oh yes. Pick up, play them, and go to the right.
Not having to wait 2 hours for a download before you can play your game for the first time.
Yeah. None of those eShop screens. All right. Any more answers? Yes.
Most of the time, they usually are working from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, good. They were meant to be complete upon... All right, yes. Some are pretty easy. Yes. One-time purchase.
One-time purchase. Wow, that's a thought.
All right. Anyone else? Yeah, Attack on Titan.
I would say just to see what things were like back in the day.
Of course, nostalgia.
And how some of the concepts forged in a game like Street Fighter 2 would stay relevant today.
Of course. Hey, I know, and there still are Street Fighter 2 re-releases. Yeah, come on, Enterprise. All right, so some answers I do get. That nostalgia feeling. We have money now, so we can go buy them.
Yeah, we have some other folks would like to.
Oh, yes? What? Can you repeat that? Why our parents are what?
Understand why they enjoyed the games they played when they were.
Of course. Yeah, kind of like how they say they don't make the movies like they used to. Now we're getting that with video games. Yes, over there.
No DLCs needed to play the game.
Of course, I think we had an answer like that, but yes.
Some of them are just plain still good with stories.
Of course. I know. All right, well, no, some of them are challenging. We get to see Nintendo hard. And one thing in this current administration is if the tariffs from China might affect video game sales, modern video game sales. I think they're safer now, but we just got to wait and see. Now, GameStop has done some research on motivations for gaming. They include immersion, achievement, creativity, and community. So, I believe those are valid reasons as well. Okay, well, one way to stay relevant, we got enduring franchises. So, play Mario Odyssey or Mario Party today, see how it started from the beginning. See Mario as this minimal graphic here. All right, same thing with Zelda, Sonic, Metroid, we got plenty.
Hey, speaking of Sonic, did anyone watch the movie yet? Well, how was it? I'm looking forward to watching.
Okay.
So are we happy they waited and refreshed the? Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, Steven Universe, you had something? Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think I was actually at Simi Valley. Jim Cummings spoke. You think he spoke about how he had something to do with, he had an encounter with Jim Carrey, and Jim Cummings did the voice of Robotnik in the Sonic cartoons in the 90s. Now Jim Carrey is Robotnik. Jim Cummings can go into that more in depth. And by the way, I hope we get a proper Metroid game, because I'm still disappointed from Other M. Okay, when do they stay relevant? We get recommendations and curiosities. Earthbound is like the quintessential cult classic. Anyone who played it loves it. You can play it on the Nintendo Classic or the new 3DS through a download. That didn't have a good run. That didn't sell well in the beginning, so now it goes for a lot. So hold on to your Earthbound, or if you find one at a good deal, you might want to hold on to it. Let's see, some other recommendations. Oh, yes, this one in the corner with the tanks called Battlezone, a minimal graphic tank game, which I thought was pretty fun. Let's see, Perfect Dark for being this classic first-person shooter, because GoldenEye gets all the attention. Shaq Fu, described as so bad you got to believe it. I know some people like it, but just the concept.
Did Shaq like it?
I'm not sure, but I know there's also a sequel out that was crowdfunded. So there is a Shaq Fu sequel. Okay, now this game in the bottom corner, it's called Technica. Not retro, but there is a story about how this was a different type of rhythm game that created communities and brought people together and created teams. It's no longer supported, but there is a documentary I want to recommend called Touching Sound, the story of Technica. And you see how these fans came together from the love of this game. Yeah, unlike DDR or Guitar Hero, you were playing this with your friends and touching the screen. So yeah, that's one I recommend from the arcades. And when I got some, hidden gems. Hidden gems recommendations. Oh yeah, Steven. No, not that kind of gem. Just any recommendations for cool retro games that may not get as much attention.
Looking over here for the original NES.
Oh yes. Take a prize if you want. Okay, moving on.
I was going to say.
Oh yes. What? Oh yeah, I heard the TurboGrafx had a lot of good games because there weren't as many third-party people involved. All right, staying relevant. News, publications, personalities. You know, we got magazines like Game Informer, which is hanging on to its life because GameStop laid off most of its staff. And I saw there's a magazine out there called Old School Gamer Magazine. Yeah, maybe I should talk to them about speaking in it. See, we got plenty of websites. You know, websites like Kotaku, GameStop, Destructoid, IGN. Yeah, they might feature a retro game. Yeah, every now and then.
Do you guys remember when you had to look up cheat codes in magazines or through word of mouth?
Yeah.
Ah, man, especially learning those Mortal Kombat fatality moves, thinking you're such a badass when you got one up on your buddy who doesn't know him. I miss those days. It just seems like it's too easy now to get information. There's not enough drive to kind of figure things out on your own because there's just so many resources that kind of walk you through it.
Well, I heard that back when The Legend of Zelda came out, it was a community effort to beat that game because there weren't really strategy guides or anything. But if I'm stuck now, I can just go on game FAQs. Okay, we got streamers, people taking it upon themselves to talk about gaming. You know, these guys in the corner. It's called Desert Bus for Hope. Anyone heard about it?
Anyone played Desert Bus? Oh man, what a game!
Yes, a game that people like to talk about for its absurdity. So yeah, these guys play Desert Bus, and for amount of money they get, they keep playing Desert Bus, and they give the money to children's toys. Also, you got guys like Angry Joe, Pat the NES Punk, Angry Video Game Nerd, Insight Gaming. Guys like Yahtzee, yeah, they do review modern games, but in a given review he goes back and forth between, back then and now, like Monkey Island games then and Monkey Island games now. And then there's this guy called LGR, which we talked about, who's focused more on PC gaming.
Yeah, there's no lack of personalities out there on Twitch and on YouTube. It's just going to keep expanding as long as the quality content is being pushed on a regular basis. So if you're ever bored, it's not hard to find something fun to watch or watch someone play a game.
Yeah, like Let's Plays.
Yeah, Let's Plays, exactly.
All right, well, you can always take it upon yourself to do this, but don't expect this to be your day job. It'll be like a hobby at first. So yeah, proceed with caution. Also, there used to be G4 TV, which was the gaming channel. I mean, if you look, I saw a documentary someone made on it. They had a lot of gaming related programming back then, but it has network executives arguing, and it just fell off. It just couldn't be what it was.
I think it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, well,
like if there was a resurgence now with enough money being injected into streamers, I think they could easily do something with this again.
Yes, we have a guy there.
You guys bring up a lot of these different people when they talk about the glitches and everything else. I haven't heard you mention AGDQ.
What?
AGDQ.
Oh.
That is a huge fundraiser.
Oh. Okay.
You play old classic games at speeds you have never seen before.
Okay. I know speedrunning is big. I know there's so much I can present here, so I won't get to everything.
That's a really good charitable event, though. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people tune in. They raise a lot of money for a lot of good organizations.
Well, one problem is television just can't keep up with all things gaming that comes out, so by the time it hits prime time, we kind of know it from reading online. So why bother with X-Play and Attack of the Show? But X-Play had some really fun way of reviewing games. Like they had the Golden Mullet Award because they played Aquaman, Battle for Atlantis. All right, we got re-releases, remasters, and remakes. So Night Trap is now available on the Switch. That was a game that was brought before, like, the politicians about how, indecent video games are. Though a lot of it's really tame. Yes?
It's telling. The original release got an M rating, but look at the re-release, it got a T rating.
Wow.
Times sure have changed, huh?
All right, well, if you want to pick a prize here, go ahead. Yes? Okay. Well, yeah, so it's definitely one of those entertaining cult classics. Also, yeah, so we got
the comments over here.
Large cause of controversy due to the fact that a single scene where a woman was attacked by
yeah.
creature.
Yeah, well, then again, you are trying to prevent these sort of things. I mean, you're playing as a security guard, and then years later we get Five Nights at Freddy's. All right. All right. All right. Okay. So well, and then games like Atari, maybe, and the Midway's owners, WB, they released their games by the bundle with like Atari flashbacks. Now they're available on the iPhone. I think Sega released all their Sega Genesis games for free on your iPhone, on the iPhone, and of course there's also Desert Bus for iPhone. Yes, so you can keep going like this. Yeah, it takes like 8 hours to get 1 point. All right, now all the Lucasfilm games are getting re-released by limited run games. So Pod Racer. Oh yes, we have a question. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. So yeah, so Shadows of the Empire, Super Star Wars, yeah, all the Lucasfilm classics are getting released. Yeah, even Disney sees the value. We got a recently released remaster of Aladdin and The Lion King, so you can get
frustrated at the Lion King for a whole new generation.
Yeah, there was like that level where you're just jumping around on vines and no one could get past it. But if you do get past it, good for you.
I will say, Aladdin was a gem on both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, so I think a lot of folks who will be playing that for the first time are in for a real treat.
All right. Now Nintendo has released a lot of its classics through the Switch Online, and then they got down to releasing a lot of Super Nintendo games, those Nintendo games. And now coming up, we got the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because there was 6, which was like a 16-bit RPG, then 7, then 8. Then 8, when 8 came along, it was like more cinematic, more smoother characters. And then there's Final Fantasy VII, which, hey, it's a great game, but it's got all these, characters that look like mannequins. Now it's going to get the full cinematic treatment. All right, so there are re-releases like the Disney Afternoon games and Aladdin and Lion King. Those are like re-releases. Final Fantasy VIII has been remastered, which has like a graphical upgrade, still plays the same. And recently, Link's Awakening for Game Boy got a complete overhaul. Looks completely different on the Switch than it does on the Game Boy. So that's like a remake. All right, now we got the minis, imitators, the clones, and putting your old consoles on HD TV. So yeah, you can find these plug-and-plays at Walmart and at the swap meet. We got one for the TurboGrafx, a TurboGrafx Mini now. There's the Commodore 64 Mini, which I think is really neato. And I want to finish that quote. Come on, Weirdo. Yeah, he said, something about the CPU being a Dorito.
Boom. Yes.
So yeah, there's the Commodore 64. There's been like a Neo Geo arcade that has like the screen attached to it. And so Nintendo, of course, they see the value in their old games and re-releasing them, so they're heavy on the copyright, which we'll get into. You can buy these stand-up arcade machines for your den. They're like smaller than a usual arcade machine. They like go for $200. Maybe look in the corner. And actually, look at this Super 64 here in the bottom left here. That's for putting your Nintendo 64 on an HDMI TV. Because, AV cables on HDMI TV may not look so great. All right. And there's also going to be a new Game Boy coming out for $200. The best Game Boy. And I think it has like a backlight and rechargeable battery. It works with all the devices that came out for it. We also got the Retro Freak here, which is a NES Super Nintendo clone. Now, making consoles and selling them based on Nintendo's design products, is that legal? Anyone? Is it legal? All right.
We have a maybe.
The answer is actually yes. There are hardware patents, and the hardware patent for Nintendo, I think Super Nintendo, those have expired. So go ahead, make your own Nintendo clone. Make it better than the original Nintendo. Okay, now there are some things you should be cautious of. Some of these clone consoles have lag input, so they might maybe work. They may not be as good quality when playing these. Yeah, so it may slow down. So word of caution. All right, we got modern games with Retro Flair. Undertale's, been big, and even I think this one from 3D Realms. They got a new old school game called Wrath Aeon of Ruin. And Nintendo again seeing the value with Mario Maker, and also text-based games can still come out. This one's This black and white game is called World of Horror, which is like a text-based game where you just type to make the events happen. And then horror images come up that look like out of inspired by Junji Ito. So if you want that Junji Ito horror game, here it is, World of Horror. Now, yes?
And would you also consider games that ditch some of the modern sensibilities like the recent Doom game did?
Oh, I know. I mean, Doom.
As returning to the run and gun style of the original.
Well, still.
Reloads, iron sights, or cover systems. But they did.
Was this like Doom for Xbox and PS4? Or,
Yeah.
well, still has the great modern graphics, so it may adopt the principles, but still looks pretty modern.
And I believe Three Realms recently released Ion Fury.
Yes, I actually talked about that in a previous presentation, but now there's a new one called Aeon of Ruin, so I'm bringing that up.
Yeah, so that other game that used the same engine as Doom.
Yes, there's the Quake. Yes, it's on the Quake engine. Oh yeah, Aeon of Ruin has a Quake engine, and I think the other one has some different engine, right?
Are you talking Ion Fury?
Yeah. What does that run on?
That one was the one that used the Duke 3D engine.
Yeah.
Just
All right. Well, and Stranger Things 3 had a adventure game that looks like, well, has that 8-bit, 16-bit style. And for the angry video game nerd fans, he does have a game out. I think 2 games out where you can play the games he plays. So it's on the 3DS and PC. All right, we got a new old school looking handheld coming out. Besides the new Game Boy. Seriously, what is this? This is actually a product coming out. It's called the Playdate. It's kind of like a Game Boy. It looks like it could have been made in the 90s, but it has a hand crank. It's got no backlight, so played in the well-lit areas. And so it has black and white graphics, a D-pad, A and B buttons, kind of like a Game Boy. And it also has the hand crank. What can you do with the hand crank? Power up your gun. Yes, charge up your gun. Take a prize if you want.
No, so you don't need a battery.
Yes. Oh, no. Sorry, you got to charge it.
Yeah, this is more or less for integrated into gameplay. So like a fishing-based game might be a good use.
Or there's also time travel games. Yes, you were saying?
I was going to say like a slot machine.
Oh, yeah. This is Las Vegas after all. Yeah, well, there's going to be a time travel adventure from the makers of Katamari Damacy, so game developers are in on this. Their plan is to release 12 games over 12 weeks when it comes out sometime this year. It goes for $149, so even a Game Boy-inspired console is still within reach in this stage. D-makes and the fan games. Yeah, imagine, I know, even back in the Nintendo 64, we were calling Game Boy retro. Then Nintendo 64 became retro. Yes, I was down with it. Then they changed what it was. Get it? All right, now this game in the center, upper, middle. Anyone want to know what that is? That is a D-make.
I know it's supposed to be like a horror game.
Well, we'll get to that. I'm talking about the one on top of Garfield.
Oh, sorry.
Reminds me of Perfect Dark here.
Kind of. Okay, this one's a bit vague, I know. It's actually called Cyberpunk 97. Okay, imagine Cyberpunk 2077, but on PlayStation. It's Cyberpunk 97. That is a fan game coming out. And yes, there is a series of videos based on horror-themed Garfield art. Made to look like it's videos, and it looks like it fits on Game Boy. I thought it's something you can play, but no. So yeah, check out these videos of a Garfield horror game.
Garfield.
Yes, there's also a subreddit called "I'm Sorry, John." Yeah.
Where's my lasagna, John?
All right. So yeah, there's plenty of fans doing the D-makes, like The Last of Us Remastered. Anyone want to know what that looks like? What the title screen? Yep. Yeah, they are.
Crash,
Yeah, they're made by the same makers. First they make fun games, now they make depressing games. All All right, even major studios can get in on this. Remember that Mummy movie from a few years back? Well, now it's
You don't feel that. Yeah.
I know, so bad they had to rework The Invisible Man. All right, now it's called The Mummy Demastered, so you play as like that some S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and you play through the movie in like a Metroid, Castlevania-style game. Side-scroller game.
Afterwards.
Yeah. All right, now a while back there was a Super Mario Battle Royale game that was free to play, so I'm not sure if there was any profit to be made. But even though that's Nintendo's IP, copyright, whatever, that it's their game, even just a little modded, is it legal to host it? I'm going to have to give this one a no, because Nintendo did come down on this guy and took it down. So then he reworked the graphics, made, instead of Mario, it's not Mario, and he renamed it DMCA Royale. But it still kind of looked like Mario, and he just thought it was best to keep it off. So Nintendo won. All right. Anything you can recommend? Any other demakes, indie games?
No, you covered quite a few that people can look at. I mean, I'm personally interested in that Cyberpunk 97 now. That's pretty cool.
I do find it interesting, too, that you hear about the game Dreams.
Oh, yes. That's something that's been recent. People are making games in this game called Dreams. That's like for PlayStation 4. Yep. I don't have that. I know. But I do see the news on that.
Some people have been doing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know. When people make...
You would recommend it? Oh, yeah.
And I know people like there's a Minecraft community for demaking games in Minecraft. There's Halo Craft. Yeah, I know there's also any fans of The Room, starring Tommy Wiseau. Yeah. Yes, there is like an 8-bit The Room game that looks like could be on the NES. Go look it up. I think it's on like Newgrounds. All right, emulators. I know, back in the LimeWire and Napster days. No, I know, we were getting emulators. So we were playing all these classics without using the consoles on our computer. They're like programs. Then they play the files called ROMs, which are based on the games. All right, now, emulators, are they legal?
Yes. Yes.
The emulators as programs are legal.
Correct. Yes.
However, what isn't legal?
The ROMs themselves.
Of course, so hosting those Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, Street Fighter ROMs on your website will get you taken down. I believe it...
Unless you're Emu Paradise. I have no idea how those guys are still up, man. I was
Yes.
downloading them in 2004. It's crazy.
We don't condone piracy of any sort, but I do know the emulator scene is actually driving up retro sales, because you want to get these games for yourself now. All right, now, look at this console right here. That's another handheld console. It's called the Pocket Go. It has emulators built in, and you've got to supply your own ROMs. So it has a Game Boy, and it's an NES emulator built in, all sorts. Just got to get your own ROMs. However you do that, that's up to you. Now, can't talk about emulators without talking about Billy Mitchell. Anyone know who he is?
Oh, yeah, Billy Mitchell.
Yes. So in the 80s, he got the perfect score of Pac-Man, and he's been setting other video game records. And this was back when you could get away with anything. Not so much these days. So during the King of Kong documentary that was being filmed, he submitted a video of him playing Donkey Kong and getting the high score at the time. Then years later, his footage was reviewed, and it turned out it was not loading like it should have been on the standard arcade cabinet. It was one of the levels was loading like this, as this GIF shows. So yes, this was reviewed, and Billy Mitchell is now banned from submitting scores. Yes, he's a cheater. He's been talking about. Yes, he's been trying to say he didn't, modify his Donkey Kong, run, but it hasn't been disproven. And also, the guy another guy called Todd Rogers, who was a referee at the time, also set a high score for a game called Dragster. But you could disassemble the programming and see at the fastest, and see what the fastest time in an Atari drag race game could be. Yeah, and his was like 0.03 seconds less than the fastest score that can be achieved. So he's been banned as well. And he was the referee who looked at Billy Mitchell's playthrough. I know. All right, anything on emulators or Billy Mitchell? All right. But if you want to meet Billy Mitchell, head out to Banning, California at the Pinball Museum. You might see him. All right. And also, he does go after people who make fun of him. Yeah, there was an episode of Regular Show where they kind of poked fun at him, and he sued them. The case was dropped. All right, the arcade barcade scene. So they're still around, just not like they were in the 80s, and they're packed in with bars, restaurants, movie theaters, arcades, casinos. Now, modern arcades don't really use quarters, not because it's that convenient to use your, credit card, but it's because there are laws from the 80s that are still around that apply to taking quarters. Now, arcade and upkeep maintenance is pretty high, so it's really the arcades that draw in people to get a drink. All right. They're on the... Yes?
Although places like the Pinball Hall of Fame have stuck to the old standby quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And I can appreciate them doing that. It gives you that classic feel. Like if I'm going to the Pinball, Hall of Fame, I kind of want that.
All right. Well, if they're willing to take... they're willing to pay the tax laws. Okay. They're declining in the USA, but they do thrive in Japan. Though, however, a 10% tax is might be a threat to the arcade scene, because now instead of putting 100 yen, you got to put 100 yen and another 10 yen. Now, some arcades, they are adopting virtual reality. So instead of paying hundreds for an Oculus, you can play Beat Saber at a VR arcade. All right. Anything on arcades? I know there's GameWorks in...
I know there's one down the street from my place in San Diego that I go to a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I said it, Dave & Buster's is...
Dave & Buster's. There's also GameWorks at a town center. In San Diego, we got Coin-Op. Definitely a fun barcade. All right, I want to meet a guy who can turn any bar into an arcade. Meet Porticade. Hold on. Sorry, we're not getting the sound. Yeah, so this guy's telling me, he sets up bars, sets up consoles in bars.
He's found a really good business opportunity. Say you're a brewery or you're a standalone bar and you don't want to invest in the infrastructure to get your own machines. You can hire someone like him to bring in his own machines. You don't have to service it, and it's basically a pop-up scene. So if you're doing an event at your bar or your brewery, you can easily get the infrastructure in place for that temporary event and benefit from folks who would want to go there and play. So I think it's a pretty solid business from an entrepreneurial point of view who wants to have a very mobile operation and target folks who are looking for something very specific, and in this case, gaming. So
all right. So yeah, he gets like a few. He gets some gigs, like a few gigs every week, and now he's putting up like a hockey museum that he's taking around, video game hockey. So he's expanding. So yeah, get your console minis and bring them to your friends' parties. Yeah, and some of these, we'll get to mods later, but some of these NES classics and the Super Nintendo classics can be modded to have even more games. Okay. Well, we got gatherings and tournaments like this one, and there's like a big retro gaming convention in Portland, and they go as far as Sweden. All right. And in gaming conventions, I went to one. They set up like a retro area, with classics. And there's the Retro World Series, and that's actually here. All right, so if Fortnite's not your thing, well, try giving retro games a try. All right, what stays relevant? Well received by the fans and critics. The franchises endure. There's also the cult appeal, which draws us in. Some names include Earthbound, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, best game title. The story of E.T. makes us want to check out the E.T. game. Even Desert Bus. The Game Boy camera, people are still fascinated by it wherever I go. Night Trap, Dreamcast was a unique console. Even had like a Tamagotchi, port on its controller. Turns on and plays, no menus, keep it simple, old-fashioned way. But hey, these days we can get curious and put anything online. I think I saw a thing on Pat the NES Punk on how there was like a fake Super Nintendo motherboard or something that was thought to be real, but it passed through WATA. So yeah. So we're still getting curious and putting things online. And these are collectibles, so we're still hunting for them. Okay, what's not sticking around? What aren't we playing as much? And not so much, no, we're not playing, but we can still collect it for the heck of it. Licensed games, because, there are rights issues and the dev cycle is short, so they just turned out bad. The yearly sports games that come and go, poorly received, knockoffs, those short-lived gimmicks, FMV titles. I know, for every Night Trap or Wing Commander, there's like a dozen other FMV games that just fell off. We don't talk about the Tiger handhelds, because we'd rather be playing the Game Boy. All right, that red and black virtual reality. We'd rather own and collect Virtual Boys rather than actually play them.
Has anyone ever owned a Virtual Boy? I liked mine. Mario Tennis was so fun. I traded it for some really crappy rocket set from my buddy in Vegas, and now they go for over $200 in good condition.
Yeah.
I feel that was a bad decision as an 11-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, Sega put out a Sega Genesis Mini, but no Sega CD or 32X Mini. So, and also a Game Boy Advance e-reader. All those games you can play on your Nintendo Switch online, and they've also been re-released as cartridges. So why bother with swiping your card, to play a game? Yeah, it takes like 5 cards to play a game for an e-reader.
Obviously, some technologies kind of fell to the wayside because of more advanced and more accessible features. So, essentially, if it was kind of wonky at the time and something has better replaced it since then, you're not going to see a lot of those remakes on the old systems, or at least not adopting those features anymore. All right. Hey, I forgot some trivia. All right, where did Super Mario get his name from?
Wasn't it some lawyer?
Mario Segale, the landlord for Nintendo. Yeah.
Good. Where'd the name Luigi come from? Yeah, there was like a Mario and Luigi's Pizza, and also the name Luigi sounds like the Japanese word Ruigi, which means similar. So that's why. All right, then one more trivia. Shigeru Miyamoto is our household name for video games, but who's the creator of Tetris, who I also feel is a inspiration? Yep. All right, and what's another game Alexei Pajitnov had made? I'll give you a hint. It was bundled with the Xbox 360's hard drive. Yes. All right. Now I feel art just keeps retro gaming relevant with the simplicity of the 8-bit and 16-bit style, and there are plenty of programs that you can start with. If you want to know where to start with, actually watch Bob Ross. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. Since the audio's not working here, I'm going to hold the microphone up. Here's me doing here's me using the Game Boy camera paint as a painting tool. Oh, wait. Yeah, this is 8-bit art with Bob Ross. Whatever.
You have the real deal. If anyone's interested afterwards, he could show you, I'm sure.
Yeah, try. Yeah, when painting can go in all the directions, try painting with a D-pad while holding A.
I got pretty good at Mario Paint on the SNES back in the day. That's pretty good.
Yeah, more.
Yeah. I still watch a lot of really good content. People using the Mario Paint music editor to create some really cool stuff still.
Okay. All right, it's also for sale and as art. I saw some perler bead, art for sale. And hey, there's 8-bit Funkos. So yeah, there is a market for selling these. And hey, the Space Invaders make a great street project. But this Space Invader was painted on the side of a building in San Diego. But the building got renovated, so it's no longer there. Yeah. So yeah, there's perler bead art. You can do it with Post-it notes. Like this Iron Man is like in a window. There's also an 8-bit Vault Boy. In a museum in Washington D.C. And even while I was at the swap meet, some guy painted that Mario question block. On his canopy weight. So it's still prevalent in art, and it's easy to get into. It's very represented in the media. Like there was a basis for Wreck-It Ralph, that Fix-It Felix game, and the Walk Between Hunger Force is known for its different styles. So it has the Mooney Knights. They think they're advanced, but really they're so far behind. All right, there was actually a TV show called Code Monkeys, which is on G4 TV. It's pretty entertaining. It was all 8-bit graphics. And the video game episode is a premise, for any TV show like Adventure Time, Cloak and Dagger, or Futurama. And then there's also this episode of The Fairly Odd Parents that did they had these pixies. There's pixies and then there's fairies. Well, and the joke is they make things pixelated. All right, I'd like to touch upon the forgotten age of sprite webcomics. Taking graphics from other games, photoshopping them, however, and making comics out of them. Now, a lot of them, I don't want to, shit on anyone's art, but a lot of them were just words on images and not funny. But there were some good ones, like Bob and George became a well-known one. It was based on Mega Man. And there's 8-bit. Then there was 8-bit Theater, which is based on Final Fantasy, and the creator of that actually made his original comic called Atomic Robo, which has been nominated for an Eisner Award. So they do have a legacy. And I think they're due for a comeback. Here's the thing: webcomics don't make as much money, so if it becomes popular, then you merchandise or sell ad space. On display and in his art. There are museums all over the world, like the Smithsonian, and this one in, I believe, Brisbane, Australia, which has plenty of pieces on display. And this is where we get the controversial subject as, are video games art, or a higher form of art? Well, there are conflicting opinions. They're a medium that allows the personalizing the artistic experience. There's more range of options and expression. But then there's Roger Ebert, the late Roger Ebert, who said, you can win in a game. Which is where other forms of art, you just follow along with it and see how it plays out. But then there's winning and losing and other choices. And then there's Charlie Daniels, who didn't like that in Guitar Hero 3 you could lose to the devil. When you played The Devil Went Down to Georgia. So yes, the concept of winning and losing seems to be the major difference. But I say it provides a whole range of storytelling and artistic options. So I say it is, and unlike any other form of art out there. All right, then there's the music of 8-bit and chiptunes, which people are still making 8-bit music. Commodore 64 and the Game Boy are the common instruments because they have the vintage sound chips. And there's a band called Yellow Magic Orchestra who remixed video game music, and it had an effect.
Has anyone been to OC Remix before? Yeah, every day. I always see if they have a new release. If you haven't been to OC Remix, check them out. You can just quickly pull it up on Google, but they have I think they've been around for over 20 years now, and they allow people to upload content to their site, and it's all inspired by video games. So they'll give you the history of the game. They'll even tell you exactly what element of the music from that game was sampled. So it's just a really cool place to go and, listen to what stuff that, really talented people have come up with over the years.
All right, great. And there are editing programs for the Game Boy to make your own music on Game Boy, like the Little Sound DJ and Music Editor. All right, there are chiptune bands out there. They're not really mainstream. They're obscure and independent. I think maybe Daft Punk might integrate some sounds every now and then. And then there's this Ailstorm song. You ever heard of Ailstorm? Yeah, they do pirate metal. There's a band, they have a song called Mexico. That has like an 8-bit medley that opens up. Yeah. All right, there are also cover bands like Power Glove. I know they're going to be in San Diego in April. And there's also Kirby's Dream Band. There's also Super Madness or Super Mad NES. So there's plenty of cover bands. There's apps and programs like on your phone. It's still a form of music still used in modern games like Undertale and Super Meat Boy. By the way, any fans of Botchamania?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's how I discover 8-bit music through Botchamania. It's video game music mixed in with pro wrestling. So look it up later. Okay. Since we're having sound issues, I'm going to just play something I saved on my Game Boy. Guess the sound. Oh. So there is a Game Boy Camera DJ game where you can make your own music in a loop of 16 notes. Guess what's playing on here? Can anyone hear it? Anyone? Okay, that was a cover of Hardware Store by Weird Al.
16 notes didn't do it for you? Very limited, very limited.
Oh, now you play. Yeah, you know what? Let's move on. We got like 10 minutes. Okay, how many video game developers we have here? Anyone plan on making their games? Okay, well there are plenty of programs for your computer out there that you can get on your computer to start making games. You know, they're readily available. They have plenty of tutorials and communities to support. There's Game Maker Studio, which is where Hotline Miami, Luftrausers, and Undertale came from. Unity, also a popular one. Thomas Was Alone, Gone Home, Cuphead. Now, if you want to just make modern games and even use virtual reality support, you got to pay extra for that. But don't spare the expense if you want to make the next great game. And the more people you have involved, the bigger it will get. So yeah. Also, yeah, the Unreal Engine. I know Unreal is good for making 3D games, but oh, really? Well, then look into see if you can make a cheap retro game with Unreal. See if there's any. All right. So yeah, I think advantage of retro style games is, they cost less to make than your usual 3D style game, and I think there might be a greater profit.
It's also a good way to kind of dip your toe into it. I mean, it's kind of hard to, jump right out of the gate with full-blown 3D, graphic design elements where, you can do like RPG Maker. It's a really good way if you're just interested in seeing what's out there.
All right. Yeah, if you happen to have an iOS developer, account, there's Sprite Kit, so you have the iPhone market when you release your game. There's also Twine for HTML games, Game Salad, which covers Android and iOS, and there's a new one out there called Godot or Godot. So yes, there's a lot of. If you want to make 8-bit retro style games, there are plenty of options out there, and you can get started today. Mods and hacks. We're still modding and hacking, consoles. Like this red thing in the corner here is like a Nintendo 64 on a PlayStation One LCD screen. There's also case modding, which leads to the Nintoaster. Yes, that's been used in Angry Video Game Nerd episodes. Now, there are tutorials out there to have backlights for your Game Boy. If you're rather play on your Game Boy instead of a Game Boy Advance SP. Now that the Wii U is going away, people have put emulators on those big screens that come with it. All right, now there's also Raspberry Pis. Raspberry Pis are like mini computers. They're like maybe less than the size of this. And you can put them in cases, and they can play like every Genesis game if you load them. So you can have a Raspberry Pi and a Genesis. And Game Boy cameras, some people still use them, make social media accounts with them. I mean, you can put a giant camera lens on it. It uses a 3D printed item that go between the camera and the big lens. Any more on that? Any more on when it comes to hacks and mods?
Yeah, anyone out there have like a Pi 3 or Pi 4 and do kind of like retro art or anything like that? No? Yeah, I mean, it's a really sweet platform. Like if you want to do a DIY arcade cabinet in your home, there's really cool tutorials out there. It's a fun project if you're learning a little bit of code. A lot of it is self-contained, so you can literally download the files that are already configured and slam them right onto your SoC board, and you are good. I keep telling this guy to do some modding on his existing hardware. We've seen some amazing Game Boy mods where not only do they have the backlight, but they've got the digitizer where it will make it much more sharp just by reapplying new film, I believe. And it's just fun projects. I think it's fun to tinker around with old technology.
All right, speaking of fun projects, new games for retro consoles. There is a limited market for making new games for classic consoles called homebrew, even modifying the current library, existing games. Now the Sega Dreamcast, people are still making games for those. So So, modern video game consoles have security and permissions, whereas the Dreamcast had an exploitable security flaw. So people are making their own homebrew games that can be released on CD-ROM, a mix between 16-bit side-scrollers and 3D racing games and puzzle games. Get your new So if you want a new Dreamcast game, go to goatstore.com. Star Fox 2 deserves a mention because it was never released officially. Now it's been released on the Super Nintendo Classic. And at one point, Desert Bus was put on Atari 2600 consoles as a demake. Yeah, so if you look here, you can see you can see the bus from the outside, and you still got to move it to the right for 8 hours.
Only 8 hours. Yeah.
All right, now the Sega Genesis. That is Brazil's most popular console, and it's still being manufactured there. Yes, so the Sega Genesis is still Brazil's most popular console. So there's a Street Fighter II tournament happening somewhere. All right, now there's how I got involved in this, doing panels. I'm that guy with a Game Boy camera. Got a Game Boy camera, when it came out. But, had fun with it for a while, played it, then put it away, new games as usual. Then I dug it out in 2014, took it to Wasteland Weekend, and I just kept taking it to places, taking photos and printing the photos on the Game Boy printer. Well, unfortunately, my Game Boy printer does not work anymore. Yeah, the pins are no longer connecting to the port.
Rest in peace, soldier.
Oh, yeah, I should have brought my spare, but that's in my desk in San Diego. Okay, but one question I get about the Game Boy printer is, I even got one yesterday on Instagram, where do you get the paper? Well, it's actually 38 millimeter receipt paper, modern receipt paper. Still holds up. The paper Nintendo put out does not work as well. So yeah, modern receipt paper you get on Amazon or Office Supplies, or I think there's some retro gaming websites for modding to do this. So I've taken around over 2,000 photos. I got on 5 minutes. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. So I got on Instagram in 2018. I avoided it because I'm not there's been some habits I've seen social media types do. I wanted to avoid those. I just did this for fun. And I thought maybe there's a positive effect from doing this. So put on social media. Been enjoying it. And one of my hobbies is to find Game Boy printer enabled games and catalog them. Like you can print out Mary Kate and Ashley in one of their games called Pocket Planner. And and the ones I can that are just static images, I put on Etsy. Or if my printer worked, I could just print out anything right now. So I can go up to someone who likes Pokemon and say, hey, pick someone between 1 and 151. Yeah, all the Pokemon and Pokemon Yellow you can print. All right, so I met some interesting people over the years. In the previous slide, took James Rolfe's photo, printed that. See, MC Chris gave me a shout out. There's Marceline from Adventure Time, Olivia Olson, Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame. He was an early supporter. He was surprised by it. Let's see, biggest blockbuster star, Tyler Mane, who played Sabretooth in the X-Men movies, or just the one X-Men movie. Yaya Han, the famous cosplayer. Here's the author of Fight Club, Chuck Palahniuk, giving me a headlock. Yeah, if you want a selfie with him, that's what he'll do. Let's see, Tommy Wiseau with my mother, the voice of Gurr. Yeah, this is the second one from 6 months ago. William Hung from American Idol when he was doing a TED Talk. Seth Green, met him at the Adult Swim Festival on the green screen. He is green. And for wondering, now you're noticing I can do these digitally. I use a device I bought on Etsy, so it's like a Wi-Fi printer. So it transfers to a small device, that I bought on Etsy. Though there are other ways. Fun fact: Neil Young's Silver and Gold was made with a Game Boy camera photo, which his daughter took. So yes, there is an album cover made with a Game Boy camera photo. Okay, now it does have Now we're still interested in retro gaming because it's still practical, and and it has its uses. I decided to make a movie, just a short film made with Game Boy printer paper as film, which I scanned later. Yeah, so try making an animation using a D-pad. Okay, well, this is the Ring and Morty. Oh. Use your imagination.